This is Brett Favre text to Nancy New. If you were to pay me, is there any way the media can find out where this came from and how much? Why you care if the media found out, if everything's on the up and up?
By the way, Nancy New
pled guilty.
She pled guilty, but she was running the nonprofit that handled these funds.
These federal funds that were meant for the state's poorest.
They're called Temporary Assistance for Needy Families funds. Needy families?
Yeah, which Brett Favre is not a needy family.
He's worth $100 million.
And I'm not even talking about your cancer foundation that people would give you money for kids with cancer, that you was taking that and donating it to your alma mater. Skip, he wanted to seem philanthropic without being philanthropic. So, but in other words, he wanted to be philanthropic, but I ain't using my money. I'm gonna use the state's money. Money that was meant for the state's poorest, the neediest. And this man don't give a damn about it. He don't give a damn if families can't feed their family. They need this money. Damn it, I got an arena. The Brett Favre and his wife foundation, they built this arena. No, they didn't.
In February, Favre sued Sharpe for making what he calls false statements about his connection in the TANF welfare scandal. A new report from the Associated Press shows that a federal judge has dismissed Brett Favre's defamation lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe.
The court found that my speech was First Amendment protected.
Yes, sir.
He sued myself and a few other people, Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee apologized, issued an apology. Me, I wasn't going to issue an apology because if I'd have issued an apology, I'd have felt I had done something wrong.
Right.
So now he could have said, well, see, he apologized. He wouldn't have apologized if he didn't feel he had done anything wrong. So I was going to take it to the highest court in the land. The thing that I had on my side is Shannon got some pretty deep pockets also. So I ain't have no problem. Had a very, very good law firm out of DC and Mississippi that presented my case. And so it is what it is. I'm glad it's behind me. I get an opportunity to focus on other things. Hopefully,
congratulations.
The people in Mississippi will have, hopefully the people in Mississippi have their day in court and everything gets worked out about what transpired down there.
Brett Favre is currently awaiting deposition for his Mississippi welfare scandal. If you're not up to speed on that, I did a detailed video on the case. Here, check out the intro to that vid where I summed it up, and I'll link the full vid at the end if you want the crazy details. Recently, text messages between Brett Favre and former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant have been leaked. According to MississippiToday.com, the text messages show that former Governor Phil Bryant pushed to move welfare funds which were intended for the nation's literal poorest residents into a fund that would be used by Brett Favre to build a volleyball stadium on the campus of the college that his daughter attends. It's hard to imagine a man who's literally made hundreds of millions of dollars and still has fame and notoriety that afford him endorsement deals and sponsorships. It's hard to imagine that man flat out stealing money intended for poor families. But Brett Favre's character has been in question for years at this point, so how shocked are we really? Brett allegedly got $8 million in misappropriated welfare funds and actively campaigned for years to squeeze more and more money from the fund. Had Brett gotten away with this whole situation without people finding out, you know, he would have taken full credit for building the volleyball facility. And according to the text messages, the governor that he was working with was gonna throw his name on the building. This is all despite the fact that it was funded with money intended for struggling families in their home state. They did not care at all. But when one of the governor's goons got arrested for misusing funds, a lot of it got traced right on back to Brett, which is how he got connected to this whole situation in the first place. And now that these text messages between him and the governor have come out, maybe they finally found the smoking gun belonging to one of Mississippi's most notorious cowboys. Now Brett's gonna try to deny any knowledge of wrongdoing, but text messages show him asking, is there any way the media can find out where it came from and how much? A question that no truly innocent man is concerned with. One of the wildest parts of reading through this story was the fact that former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant has denied for years having any real involvement in pushing the welfare funds to the volleyball stadium, has now had direct text messages between him and Brett Favre, and the one I just can't get over were the discussions to throw the governor's name on the building. Like, that's like, I'm gonna do this dirt, but I'm gonna be proud of it and I wanna be celebrated for it. These dudes really be doing the lowest possible, most scummy imaginable, but then pass it off as something high and righteous. So you stole money from the poorest people in your state. My home state, by the way, which is the poorest state in the entire country. So you stole from the poorest people in the poorest state, then put it into a vanity project for your boy and have the nerve to call it philanthropy. It's crazy. Imagine if this whole thing would have went through and he would have had his name on that building. He would have been forever associated with unselfishness and community building. But really, you a scummy ass criminal thief who feel like you're above the people you put there to serve, which made it easy to take money that was meant for their basic needs, all in order to fund whatever BS project your friends brought to you. And Brett Favre in the same boat, cause he pushed for this every step of the way. Hell, it looked like it was his idea. So for most people who caught wind of this and looked in on the details, it's not hard to conclude that Brett Favre knew exactly what he was doing. And he was called out for this by tons of news stations and several media members across all outlets. But two in particular really struck a nerve with old Brett, and that was Pat McAfee and Shannon Sharpe, two former NFL players whose NFL careers are still respected and their current platforms are huge. Brett didn't like the fact that these two individuals could speak directly to sports fans all across the world. Well, the problem wasn't that they could reach all these people. The real issue was that the former players weren't on his side. It's like he expected people to ignore all the details of the case and continue to give him the hero treatment that he's become so accustomed to. And as a player, he deserved it, but the truth is, as a person, dude's character has actually been in question for years at this point. Now in 2020, when he came out to make this political endorsement, he of course talked about the ever important free speech. But like a lot of people in this country, he's all about free speech until you start saying some shit he don't like. You're only free to speak things that he also agrees with, or things that paint him and his circles in a good light. But the second you start free speaking against him in any way, that love for the First Amendment just flies out the window. So he sued them both, trying to shut them up from speaking on the publicly reported details of the case, even though every single news outlet covered this story, and anybody could look it up, bro. It's publicly available. And listen, bro, if somebody ever tried to sue y'all over some BS, then you can seek out an attorney like today's video sponsor. Alright bros, real quick here before we jump in, a quick word from today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Did you know that you really don't need a lot of money to hire a lawyer? And hiring them don't even have to be a long drawn out process. Today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, has modernized the whole thing, so you can take care of all your legal issues with only your phone. And you can fully submit a claim in 8 clicks or less. There's no need to visit law offices or sit through a consultation. You submit case details, sign contracts, all from your phone. So if you're ever injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. You can submit a claim in 8 clicks without having to leave your couch. For more information, go to forthepeople.com or dial #law. That's #529 from your cell phone, and then you're good to go. Shout out to Morgan & Morgan once again for sponsoring today's video. Without further ado, let's jump back in. People think you took the money because the lady who hooked you up has already gone down for embezzling the funds. It's been called the largest embezzlement scheme in the history of the state. Brett's nickname for that lady? Nancy Santa. He got a part of those funds. The text messages are public and the paper trail is long. We got all the information. I really combed through those details in my last Favre video, tracing it back from 2017 to current time. So again, bro, if you want the whole story and all the details, after this, be sure to go and check out my last video. Right now, it's just a matter of whether or not his home state of Mississippi is gonna give him fair punishment or a slap on the wrist. Let's be real, bro. It's probably the latter. He'll probably walk away with minimal damage and complain about the minimal damage that he has to endure. He's probably gonna play victim and act like he's been attacked and give some generic statement about loving all the poor people in Mississippi. When these dudes be talking about the hard-working, tax-paying citizens, it's like they have amnesia to the fact that they've been taking that tax money, not working hard for it, and using it for frivolous bullshit, with zero regards to the people it was intended for. Then all of a sudden, you're the one that's actually being attacked. No, you're being treated like a criminal, because that's what happens. That's how this country you love so much works for everybody else. It's like they're all about the rules till they gotta be held accountable to them. Brett and his legal team decided to drop the McAfee lawsuit after Pat came out with a statement of clarification, which clarified nothing that we didn't already know. Felt like a dog and pony show, complete waste of time. He said, quote, "My statements expressed in a comedic style were based solely on public statements and allegations." And I don't know if Shannon Sharpe had this same opportunity, but either way, he didn't apologize in any shape or form. Shannon said on air, quote, "So if that's the poorest state, Brett Favre is taking from the undeserved. You made $100+ million in the NFL, and to talk about, well, Favre didn't know. This is what Brett Favre texted. If you were to pay me, Is there any way the media can find out where it came from and how much? He stole that money from the people that really needed the money. Brett sees it, doesn't like it, sues Shannon, and goes to court. A judge takes a look at it, and here's what the judge said. Quote, no reasonable person listening to the broadcast would think that Favre actually went into the homes of poor people and took their money, that he committed the crime of theft against any particular poor person in Mississippi. Sharpe's comments were made against the backdrop of long-standing media coverage of Favre's role in the welfare scandal and the state's lawsuit against Brett Favre. Listeners would have recognized Shannon's statements as rhetorical hyperbole. End quote. That's it. Sometimes the legal system does things that make no sense, but in this case, the judge saw what everybody can. These lawsuits were a sham, likely to achieve two things. One, to scare sports guys away from covering the story, and two, as a distraction from the actual case, where it sure looks like Brett Favre and a bunch of his partners in crime, who all have money, still stole from the poorest people in the damn country. In the meantime, his legal team has tried to muck up the case by not cooperating and delaying things as much as possible. A similar strategy to the one he used back in 2010, which was the first time he got caught up for some messages he sent. In that case, he was accused of sending lewd messages to a female employee of the Jets when he played for them. Now, we don't know that he really did it, but we do know he wouldn't cooperate, and most of the time there's a reason for that. Either way, he mucked up that case and he walked away scot-free, and he seems to be trying to pull off a similar move. But his deposition, which has been canceled and rescheduled a million times, is now finally scheduled to happen in December. Will it actually take place? Will he actually be held accountable? I do have my doubts, but we'll just have to see.